Welcome to Think Fast, where I am drinking a full lemon in warm water to kick off this episode because this is how I start my day. I just woke up 15-20 minutes before this episode started. How has your morning been, Suchita?
Oh my God, hectic. I have officially lost 3 kgs in the past 2 days because I've lifted a lot of furniture thanks to my house moves. But oh my God, bro, I was out of commission for 48 hours and what has happened to this world?
Pagal ho gaya.
Elon has pulled out of some deal. Japanese PM has been shot. Ho kya raha hai, guys? What is going on?
But most importantly, the visuals of what's happening in Sri Lanka is just something else, right? I mean, yesterday I was watching that footage and I'm like, just the sea of people
Yeah.
getting into that house. And also, I think some of those were really I think there is also beauty in some of those images because if you look at some of them, people chilling on the bed and hanging out, they're jumping to the pool. So I think in the midst of a revolution, sometimes images give you so many different emotions, right? So much fun to watch. But the pool shot and the dudes on the bed was too much fun. They're all just hanging on the bed.
Yeah. And not to make light of the situation because obviously things are dire in Sri Lanka
Exactly,
right now.
yeah.
But it's a kind of revolution you would expect from someone who lived in a country as beautiful as Sri Lanka, which is let's just jump in the pool. No, but things are going from bad to worse. And I don't know, man. I think I don't know if this is causing you the same amount of anxiety as it causes me. But you're just literally seeing the world combust post-COVID. This was bound to happen because, everything from Ukraine, Russia, which refuses to stop, to this Sri Lanka crisis, to China's, very non-hostile direct takeover Hong Kong and whatever they've attempted in, Taiwan, Taipei or wherever else. But it almost seems like the world is kind of falling apart. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but India seems like a pretty sane place to be living in right now, all things considered. Think about it.
I don't know.
America, every second day there's a shooting.
America, don't even get me started. No,
Yeah.
but I think the whole part is I feel at some point of time there are multiple things that happen because of COVID. Right? Everybody has really a level. I think all of us have emotions have spiked. We've all have perspectives on things. We've all reflected at different levels. Right? You're kind of looking at the world in a slightly different lens. But not all of us are Elon Musk. So we are not adding to the combustion in that sense. But speaking of Elon Musk, have you noticed that Twitter blocked him, suspended his account on Friday after he said he's pulling out of the deal? Then they gave it back.
I am all for this passive aggressive shit because he asked for it, man. What a shitty thing to do to a company, bro.
After doing a town hall, weirdly enough, you pull out of it and I'm like,
it's just horrible.
Such a douche move.
Yeah, and also it's just, I don't know, it's just the way the whole thing is transpired. He's also been very, not very transparent with what his issues are, which is really saying something because this guy literally tweets about the dump he took in the morning. You know what I mean? He tweets about anything and everything under the sun. He's made this whole random issue out of bots on Twitter, which is kind of weird because you're just people like you have prospered thanks to those bots. You know what I mean? Who's liking your tweets? It's not actually 500,000 people, sir. Just open it and, check for yourself. But the way this whole thing has happened just sucks. And I don't know, man. Don't you feel bad for Twitter employees at this point? Because you're just
because I think they'll people who work for Twitter really, and if you meet anyone who's, I met a bunch of people from India who work for Twitter and they're all genuinely passionate about the platform. They're really into what's really going on and what it's building towards. They've also evolved it smartly. I mean, if we just let it be, we got a new CEO, they were going in a direction. Now it's just unnecessarily gone into this whole thing. But he's tweeting memes now. He tweeted this Chuck Norris chess meme and then another meme about saying, I asked them to tell me how many bots there are, but now they're taking me to court. So now they will have to tell me how many bots there are. Anyway.
But he's going to lose money one way or the other, bro.
I don't think he cares.
I mean, irrespective of whether he cares or not, it's just one of those, unnecessary legal headaches for both parties combined. I mean, I can't imagine his companies being I can't imagine this guy has a dearth of legal issues, right?
Too many.
The number of companies he has and number of things he does. But things seem to be business as usual at Twitter because they have apparently sued the government of India, which is fairly interesting. Weirdly cool move for them to make in the midst of, all of this. What was your thought on this little thing, Vijay?
There's been this discussion about just like blocking content. Right? I think this has happened in a few other countries as well. And Twitter's always kind of taken a bit of a hard stand on this. And I feel that what's eventually going to happen is there is a rumor of a feature that might come in the next OS for Apple, for instance, which might actually stop governments from being able to track certain pieces of your information and things like that. An early rumor, not sure, we won't know till September, October. But I feel it's going to eventually become a point of saying when obviously governments want to regulate and want to control a certain level of it, that's what governments do as part of their overall mandate. But when platforms are global, this causes a certain level of conflict in who controls, to use Elon Musk's term, the town square, right? Who controls the town square?
Yeah.
And I feel these things are going to happen more and more. The more we live online, the more we go into the metaverse. I feel this is going to be like I think that's the start of it. Like there's going to be so much escalation on this front of like two separate parallel bodies regulating the world or deregulating and regulating. And that leads to like a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, if you look at the assassination of Shinzo Abe, it's so bizarre the way that happened. Just the story is
wild.
just
and like unbelievable.
And I was I just briefly looked at, I think one of the latest reports were saying even the reason why the person who killed him was because he thought that there was something he was doing to defame someone in his family. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't fully read the report. So
literally, when I saw that piece of news, my immediate reaction was he in America? Because you know what I mean? Like the US has almost become synonymous with these like crazy psychotic shootings out of nowhere.
That don't even get me started. Like, I mean, I don't even understand how how guns are still available.
I mean, not to make this a politics/geopolitics show, but it just seems like there is a lot of frustration that's going to come out very aggressively all over the world in different shapes, sizes, and forms. In countries like China, this aggression is going to be controlled because of how state-run and state-controlled everything in China is. But imagine, you know what I mean? It's almost like there are these little fires being lit everywhere, and all that like frustration and hatred that you have either towards the government, you know, another community. It just seems like there are avenues of that being born, daily. But moving back to all things business, TikTok has abandoned its e-com expansion plans in Europe and US.
You can say
I told you so. I told you so. China is literally the only country that has shown any amount of, legit content to commerce conversion. It's the only country where live streaming and live shopping has, taken off. So and it just hasn't happened anywhere else. And I think the key thing to remember over here is dynamics in between, in countries are different. There's so many startups that have attempted this in India. None of them have, worked. But in any case, TikTok has abandoned its plans, and I can buy myself a t-shirt that says Suchita was right.
Our friend Ashneer Grover is back. He's set up his new company.
God. Behen is back.
Behen has registered a new company called Third Unicorn Private Limited. Little on the nose, isn't it?
That's what it's called.
The actual registered company name is Third Unicorn Private Limited or something like that. Like Third Unicorn is first two words. I didn't go beyond that, but that is what he has registered and what he's working on. That is the official registered company name. After the green car, now comes Third Unicorn Private Limited.
That is wild. You do you, Ashneer.
But gotta give it to him though.
Guts hai bande mein, guts hai. 100%.
What I'm interested to know, and this is actually something that came up while I was in Ahmedabad yesterday, and someone actually asked me this question saying, and this is like a random like side conversation, we're saying they've just finished auditions for round 1 of the second season of Shark Tank, where they're shortlisting people who will kind of be on it. Will they get him back? If I was a television producer, I would bring him back. He will be so off the rails that it'll be fun to have him on. But does he still have the credibility to be on Shark Tank is the question that might come up. But
credibility
TV perspective,
is one.
Get him back on.
Yeah, credibility is one. Second, I mean, I don't know how much money he did or didn't get out of Bharat Pay eventually. So, like what? Yeah, I think credibility will be one. Capital will be another. I don't know, this guy, has taken out, not taken out, but I'm mumbling again. But long story short, I think, I don't know, if I were a producer at Shark Tank, I would switch the jury up a little bit. I would keep Aman from boat. I would bring Piyush back in a larger role because I think Piyush was a slightly less obnoxious Ashneer. And then I would figure out some villain.
What you're not getting is this. For any reality show, what you need to learn, because early days training when this whole industry kind of broke up into reality TV in India, you need to have a mix of people who are almost different versions. It's like you're creating khichdi. You have to have different ingredients. So what you do is you need to have that guy you all
doesn't
hate.
have different ingredients, bro.
It
Dal
does.
hoti hai, chawal hota hai. What else? What else you put in your khichdi?
Vegetables you
Oh,
put.
really?
Yeah, I put vegetables in my khichdi.
Oh, I have basic veg khichdi. Okay,
fine. Biryani. Biryani for your liking. Bel puri. Pick your
I'm just troubling you because I can. But let's move on, bro. You just shared this article. You just shared this article from Morning Context. What is this Baiju conundrum about?
So there's something weird happening. I mean, I've been following this article for a while. Haven't brought it up on the show because I want to see how legit it was. But there seems to be a certain gap in the round that Baiju's announced earlier this year. So Oxshot was this company supposed to lead the 2,200 crore Series F round for Baiju's. And they were going to put in 1,200 crores. But supposedly that money hasn't come in. And Oxshot also is not like a big name. So what Morning Context is kind of reporting is the fact that there seems to be a gap in the actual funding coming in for a lot of stuff that was announced. In many ways, what they're trying to figure out is that, okay, did this announce this and not get the money like a lot of people have? Or on the other front, what they also want to kind of figure out is that there seems to be a weird connection to Sri Ravi Shankar in one of the funds as well. So there is lots of stuff happening there. So we got to kind of nobody else has reported on this. So I'm kind of holding back and getting into more details. And also considering a lot of people haven't got the money they were going to get this year.
Yeah, also I feel like we have to be a little careful because I think there was another report of, them not paying Akash Institute and Blackstone. And I think 3 days later, I saw like an article or something that said that they have been paid. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't know where
there's a lot happening, which is I'm not going deep into it, which is why I don't think it's good
but
for
Akash
us to kind
Mishra
of say
has found a new Nishana, which is not Oyo and it's Baiju's now. So let's see how that story unfolds. A last story that I found, which was interesting, was the notorious Rajiv Mishra has stepped back from SoftBank to launch a new fund. I don't know if you remember this, but like 3-4 odd years ago, there was this whole chatter about some major fallout in between all the leaders within SoftBank, and there was some, like shady things that had gone on. I don't want to bore our listeners with this, just Google it and you'll catch it. But he, obviously was one of the big sort of anchor men behind SoftBank's Vision Fund, which was their 100 billion fund. And it's interesting to see him step back and, test something new out. So there's that.
So what are we talking about this week? We're talking about this report from the Economist Intelligence Unit, which says that Bangalore is the least livable city. I do not agree.
I totally agree.
I know you feel differently about that. We're also tapping into the Good Glamm Group, finally breaking up into 3 legitimate parts, somehow structured. We both have interesting perspectives on this. What's happening with Vauld? How do you pronounce this? Vauld? And especially all the hate that influencers who were promoting it are getting. And just like, it's an interesting case study in how you need to respond in cases like this. And also like, my own perspective on crypto kind of will come back again. And we're doing a bit of a follow-up on a few things which we predicted early in the year, because we're halfway through the year, actually more than halfway through the year. So we're running through how those things panned out. And I have a feeling I might be on the losing side on this one.
And I have a feeling I need to buy myself another t-shirt. But
you can just buy like one t-shirt and like just wear that. You don't have to buy more t-shirts.
So I can wear them every day. There you go.
Okay, fair enough. All this and more on today's episode of Think Fast. But I know we started off on a slightly more somber note. So here's a nice like smiley face for you guys.
Oh my God.
End this opening segment saying, see, I've even drawn on it. He has teeth, has a nose. For people who are listening to it, you can watch it on YouTube. But we will finish this and be right back on Think Fast. Welcome back to Think Fast, where I am taking offense. I am taking offense by people calling Bangalore the least livable city. I spent some of the most bizarre periods of my life in Bangalore, and I've really enjoyed that city. I was the bizarre part, not the city. But why do you not think Bangalore is a livable city? I mean, before we get into the report, what are your thoughts before we get into it?
I don't know, man. It's like, I've spent a lot of time in between Bangalore, Delhi and Bombay for work. Bombay, I love. Like, if there's another city that I could live in India, it would be Bombay. I would just need to really sort out, home situations because your houses are too freaking expensive. And it's just, I don't know, it's not like Bangalore is bad. It's just that it's bad compared to the others. All things considered, actually, and not that I'm some major, Delhi supporter or whatever, but Delhi seems to have the best of all worlds, right? Great infrastructure, a lot of space, and generally, mobility, right? We have parks, we have, metros that connect you to different parts of the city. You've got this vibrant, cultural extravaganza going on. What does Bangalore have apart from good weather?
What do you not have that we all have is air. You don't have breathing air half the time.
That's only for 2 months in the year, guys. Itna bhi exaggerate mat karo. And it's not like Bombay is some real Maldives, let's be honest.
That is true.
But Bangalore for me, I don't know, man. It's just not my vibe. Sorry, listeners from Bangalore. You're great, but your city could do with some work.
So, getting back to the report, right? The Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Index. And the most livable city in the world, according to them, is Vienna. I love Vienna. It's beautiful. And but among Indian cities, Delhi has the top rank of 140, like you. So the Economist Intelligence Unit agrees with you. Delhi is the most livable Indian city. Bombay is just 1 point behind. It's not bad. I thought Bombay would be far lower because I have many points of view on Bombay and how it is to live in this city. Chennai is at 140. ये क्या है? Line में दिया है 140, 141 Bombay, 142 Chennai, 143 Ahmedabad, and 146 Bangalore. It's not like they were that far apart.
Yeah, 100%. Everything, this is basically like a comparison in between bad and worse, right? So in the general index of bad to worse, where does everyone stand? So Bangalore obviously has one obvious issue, which is infrastructure. Where that city is crumbling. It cannot handle the number of people that live there.
It was never meant to have so many people. That's the problem.
I mean, dude, one could argue neither was Bombay nor was Delhi, but people figure things out, right? And cities also evolve and improve and iterate over time. It's almost like there's no municipal corporation, Delhi. I know Delhi has a lot of challenges and issues, but at least your basics are taken care of, right? If I need to go to a hospital, we literally have some of the best hospitals in India, in Delhi. If you want to get an education, you have Delhi University, you have, the IITs, all within the general sort of, and you also have very good private colleges, all within the construct of, Delhi NCR. Bombay, also again has an IIT. You have your creative colleges like Xavier's, etc. Yeah. But what does Bangalore have? Bangalore has Christ. What else? NLS?
There are actually a lot of colleges. See, also the thing is, in Bangalore, it's a lot more engineering colleges and stuff like that. Little spot. I studied there. I lived there for my 11th and 12th and my entire long engineering degree. So there are a lot that the problem is, and I'm talking just from a hindsight perspective because I was there at a point when it wasn't as crowded, is that Bangalore was always this retirement place. People go there, chill, and then the whole IT thing kind of came in, and it's just kind of, those roads is very tough to expand because of the way they were built. So suddenly it just got, I don't know how they could have planned it better. Maybe they could just almost build done it all in Mysore instead of doing it in Bangalore in terms of the IT hub thing. But that's a hindsight point. Bombay has similar problems. Bombay half the time is kind of crumbling around and it always feels like it's in construction mode, right? There's never a construction's over mode in Bombay. It's always in construction. But I think it brings a larger point. Obviously looking at these indexes, it's also very they're very close in terms of numbers, etc. But I think the core parameters of what you need to be able to build businesses and to live in a certain place, these are things that you want to have infrastructure in place. You want to have culture there. You want to have stability and just from crime, etc. space as well. You also got to have gardens and lakes and places people kind of go out, and that's what people expect from cities. And the more you jealous me is add in local transport, just having local transport, which is a little bit more legit. Like Bombay did something which I thought was very suspect initially, but I think it made sense. Is they made all the buses smaller, but they just increased the volume of them. So they kind of move through traffic faster. I think that was a smart thing which they kind of did at some point of time. But I think the larger sense, as you look at some of the major cities across the world versus the major cities in our country, I think that's the one big thing, that just how are you scaling up in a planned manner is sometimes something we don't think about enough. And I think a lot of the tier 2 cities do a better job of that than a lot of the metros in that sense. I think that's really the point. I think at some point you should pick up infrastructure and see maybe what's happening in that
what's
space.
being
That
built
would be
over there.
interesting.
Yeah, I think one last point on this for me, personally speaking, apart from, just generally space to live, breathe, be yourself, etc., etc. I think for me, the culture that a city has is so important. And, professionally, I work at LBB, right? Like we're like the center of all cultural things that could possibly be going on within a locality. So I genuinely have like a very strong sort of, bird's eye view of what's going on in the top metros. And again, not that I'm the biggest, karta dharta of Delhi, but the cultural scene, whether it's, theater, pop-ups, movies, just dance, drama, whatever.
It's just sad though. Bangalore
Books.
have a lot of that. I again feel it's the
museums, dude. Look at the number of museums that Delhi has, and they're all so well maintained. And I think, I'll give credit where it's due, which is there is a lot of ownership from Delhi walas when it comes to their city. Like, for example, if you look at something like the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, it's a private endeavor, man. You know what I mean? You look at something like Sundar Nursery that's come up so well. All of it is donor money that's gone into making the city more hospitable and livable. You see places like Dhanmil compound. I haven't seen places like Dhanmil anywhere else, in India.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm going to go with what you're saying.
Come to Delhi, basically, is my point. But enough dunking on Bangalore.
Fine. I think we have, this has become a public policy and general news show in this first part. Listeners are like, 1 second, is this the same show I've listened to every week? So guys, getting back to regular programming. One of our favorites of all time, the people we still love talking about. We're like, why are we not talking about them enough? Good Glamm Group is back.
In the news. Took some time, but now they're here.
So Good Glamm Group, obviously, after the ton of acquisitions that happened, they just announced that they're reorganizing their overall business into 3 specific units, 3 divisions: Good Brands Co., Good Media Co., and Good Creator Co. So putting all their brands under these 3 divisions. They've announced clear leaders for all. So Suklin Aneja, who came in some time back to be CEO for the consumer brand business, she's going to be leading Good Brands Co., Good Media Co. Going to be led by Priyanka Gill, and Good Creator Co. by Sachin Bhatia. They've also really kind of set up an entire international business division to kind of take MyGlamm to the Middle East and Southeast Asian markets. They have also announced a leader for that unit as well. So I think it's an interesting move, especially because this is something they needed to do. We've spoken about this in the past. We were saying, how are they going to organize this and kind of structure this, right? So I'd say in some ways it's a good thing. It's a good announcement. It also, I think, will make investors feel a little bit more secure, because this kind of shows that whole like mad spree of acquisitions is kind of done. Now it's about structuring and consolidation.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a little too late. I think that would be my 2 cents over here, because, logically speaking, the split makes sense. But, their business is literally predicated on these 3 pieces working really, really well and seamlessly together, right? If you look at any of the public, pitches that any of the co-founders make, they keep harping on this thing of content to commerce. Now, I've said this multiple times in the past, but I think content to commerce is just a rebrand for content marketing. I don't know what else it frankly is. I don't know. I think it may be too late in the day. And I think the other big consequence of this is going to be a bit of a cleanup internally, because, the one big question, and you always said this from the get-go, right? Which is, how can your strategy come after your acquisition? Your strategy needs to come either before or during the acquisition. It can't be an afterthought, because someone's going to pay the price. And if you look at all the acquisitions that they made, irrespective whether the acquisitions were in content or in CPG, they were essentially acquiring brands, right? And you know how it is, dude. Brand equity can be lost if you're not consistent with what the brand's, mission, promise, delivery, etc., is. So my 2 cents on this is, you made all these acquisitions. I don't know how much brand equity is left for the brands that they acquired. And it's also because it's no one's fault over here. It's just, I genuinely don't know what their numbers are, right? I don't know what their growth has been or hasn't been. I don't know if Momsco has performed better or worse post-acquisition. I don't know if Scoop Hoops performed better or worse post-acquisition. But keeping all of that aside and, knowing that we don't know any of the facts, it just seems like, I don't know, I'm trying to say this in the nicest, sweetest way as is possible, but how much of the character of these companies is still going to be left after you've put them through the ringer over the past 2 years and now are going to put them through the ringer again through this, consolidation thingamajig is, left to be seen.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, right? But I feel that at some point, this is what happens when you're trying to building on the fly. And a lot of modern holding company kind of creations go through this, because a lot of the larger companies who already had this kind of a structure had been around long enough, already had some of these structures with these practices in place, and they would just plug in brands into specific areas. But if you look at even Good Glamm Group, they started off as technically a brand which became a house of brands, which then is building now divisions under it. This whole building on the fly does this. So, like what might end up happening is you might have a set of people who might leave, a set of people who will stay. It will take stability to come in, but at the end of the day, how much product is really selling, how is the media doing, how is the whole creator side doing is really going to be the proof of the pudding, to use that term. And more than anything else, I feel what it will also kind of show is that it'll come down to base fundamentals, which I think we preach about a lot on this show. That's what becomes important. You structure it right, they will end up being a certain amount of cuts in terms of cost, etc. But at the end of the day, they got to still always make sure that while all this is happening in the background, core focus on product being sold, on media being grown needs to be there. And at some point, they need to talk about those numbers, which I know it's not a public company, so they don't have to talk about, but that's really going to show. And I know they did announce a few things. I know that Baby Chakra was getting into the CPG product side of things a lot more as well, is what I remember they announced in terms of the baby products recently, and a few other pieces. But
the question over there would be, why, dude? Like, why? You bought the Mom's Co for a reason, right? And my assumption would be that you bought Baby Chakra to help propel the quote-unquote content to commerce, also known as content marketing, growth for the Mom's Co. Why are you creating so many sub-brands within, portfolios? Like, I was on PopXo's website because I was searching for something and they had shown up and I was all like, ooh, what's PopXo been up to? And you open the website and, there's this like shop section and it has a bunch of their own brands. So to me, it's a little confusing because there's a big difference in between being a house of brands and then just launching brands for, I don't want to say the sake of it, because I'm obviously sure that there's some, math that's been put behind each and every one of these engines. But it's kind of like, what are your brands? Like, are your brands the Mom's Co, or is your brand, Baby Chakra's private label? And also somewhere, having so many brands would make sense if you were building a market, but these markets are there, right? Like Mama Earth has built the market for mother and childcare focused brands. You don't need Baby Chakra to also launch their own brand to create, you know what I mean? Like to build a market around these niches that you found. Makeup is a huge category. You don't need PopXo to launch their own private label brand. So to me, it's just all a little confusing. And again, I'll say this for the umpteenth time, but I'm only saying this as an outsider with very little information to what's happening within. And I think the other challenge over here is, and I think as a community, our whole ecosystem needs to get better at it, is saying things like the company has earmarked 100 crores for its international foray. I remember when they had just one is that, and second is like, dude, like what's even your depth in India for you to now look at, international waters, right?
But that's actually where I think I have a slightly varied perspective, is that I feel a lot of companies are realizing that the depth of consumer buying in India is not going to hit the numbers they would want to hit, and they might
to justify
be
their valuations,
exactly,
which
so
is
they're trying
like
to figure a way to get in dollar revenue.
Retrofitting. I don't know, man.
I think that's what's happening. I think because the most companies I've spoken to in recent times have all spoken about how they want to focus also on the Middle East, how they want to get. I mean, SaaS companies though are talking only about the US market and the European market and the Middle
because
East
that's
market.
The only market that exists. Like SaaS has traditionally never done well here.
And so, and I think that's happening with CPG as well. So what might be interesting to look at is to say that, can you only hit your valuations and can you only hit your numbers now if you think from a global perspective at a point of time when the entire world is thinking more local and more nationalistic? So it's interesting times. But before we take into the next one, I thought we should take a break and be right back with the Vauld story. Welcome back to Think Fast, where Suchita will talk about her crypto portfolio right now. How much crypto do you own, Suchita? Where all do you? Are you in Solana?
Bro, oh my God, that's the next bubble that I can anticipate bursting. I don't know, man. This story was wild. So, listeners, we guys are specifically referring to this excellent story that was broken on the internet by a bunch of tweeters. But there was a very good article that Shefali Bhatt wrote about the Vauld crisis. So, before I ramble and bamble, VD, do you want to give us a TLDR on what is happening with yet another crypto crisis?
So Vault was this company that was selling you almost like an FD version of cryptos. Right? They pitched, it was pitched as a crypto FD. A lot. They used a lot of influencers and content creators to kind of promote it out there. People are putting in like tiny amounts of money, and everyone's like, "This is better than an FD. This is." That is how it was kind of pushed out there. Obviously, with the crash and everything else happening, they have literally stopped all withdrawals temporarily, and you can't put in money, can't take out money. But I think that not take out money is where everyone's like freaking out, because how can you not let someone take out their own crypto?
Because it's going to come crashing down.
And so what's happening is that especially consumers have turned to the influencers who said you should buy. So let's start an account on Vault and saying you are to blame because you got me onto this. So some of India's like top fintech finance YouTubers like PR Sundar, Ankur Wariku, Akshat Srivastava, and Anish Singh Thakur, who runs this channel called Booming Bulls, they're all been like really pulled up for, okay, guys, you made us buy it, so you figure out and get our money out. And they've all had varyingly different kinds of responses to it. But all in all, it kind of shows that it's still so early in the day for crypto. And I feel that while there was a time when things kind of really blew up, it's very tricky right now. Like, you don't know which one's going to stick. But if you talk to most people in the crypto market right now, they say this is the best time to buy because everything is so down. But that's a whole different story altogether.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, really in a nutshell, the story is about accountability, right? The conversation over here is about accountability, which is how do you pitch, promote things that you yourself are, unsure of? And also, to what extent does the accountability rest on the creator, influencer versus the consumer of said information? And I don't know, man, I like the example that you gave of Ankur Wariku, because you said he handled the criticisms around this really well. So what's a PR masterclass takeaway over here?
So most of the other creators, so I think two of the creators named did not respond to Shefali's article, and they've generally not been responding to criticism on this. Ankur Singh Thakur of Booming Bulls said, I've clearly mentioned I do not give investment advice and people must do their own research before making decisions. But literally for the first minute of that video, he's like, I don't know where you kept your Bitcoin, but after today, keep everything involved. Like, literally, that's what he says. Right. So again, really contradicting what his response is. Wariku, actually, I thought was the most measured. He said, okay, I got off a call with the founders. I'm as concerned as all of you are. I got paid, I think 4.5 lakhs for that promotion. I had money in Vault. I still have money stuck in Vault. My money had grown to almost like 30 lakh worth, has now come down to about 10 lakhs. So I've always, if I talk about a product, I have skin in the game as well. But I'm going to reflect on the products which I kind of put out there a lot more and for the future. So I think very measured, very like, okay, my money stuck too. I spoke to them. I know maybe I could have done this better. And that's a great way to respond. Versus everybody else who's either like running away from responding or basically lying. And I think this is also like almost like a great case study of how we need to respond.
I think the one thing that this signals is the potential regulations that could come up specifically within this money segment. So, for example, 100%. Like how any ad on mutual funds would end with that,
mutual fund is subject to market test. Please read the offer document
carefully before investing. So much so that all of us literally have those, disclaimers embedded in our heads, right? You have disclaimers for alcohol also, where content around alcobev can't be promoted to kids who are under the legal drinking age, this, that, and the other. So I think over here, especially with financial advice, given how literally people take it, and given that it's literally, in some cases, people's livelihoods at stake, right? I remember in a previous story that we guys discussed, which was around gaming. And I think it was about Dream 11 or one of these, betting, gambling type apps where, again, it's a fine line.
One, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a fine line in between gaming and gambling, and how gambling is on, this side of the line, and gaming is on the right side of the line. But long story short, I think what will end up happening is situations like this, and potentially other disasters that happen within crypto, because let's be honest, the past 6 to 8 months have just been an implosion. And the only people who seem to have benefited from this were the ones who, were in early and are getting out early as well. So what happens to crypto doesn't happen to crypto in the long run. That, only time will tell. Fundamentally, is there a use case for a universal currency on the internet? And by universal, I don't mean everyone, trading on the same, but generally, the blockchain fundamentally is the right way to think about money exchange online and digitally. But I do think the thing that, situations like this are going to do is just get consumers to err on the side of caution, especially when it comes to crypto trading. And that goes back to, again, another conversation that we had earlier about how the Indian government is looking at crypto, right? Where they're saying it's an asset class and it can't be used,
as currency.
Exactly. So long story short, regulation within this, I think, is needed, man, because, otherwise you'll have a bunch of people saying a bunch of random things with no disclaimers being given out anywhere.
And I don't buy the point that, how can you say regulate something that is from pushing towards deregulation, is because one of the core things that regulation brings is stability, which we all seem to kind of not talk about enough. Is that, and the whole point is that when even stable currencies fall, that's also happened, right? I mean, you look at many currencies across the world, I mean, they do fall, but there's still a certain trend to it. There is certain, like, you kind of know when that's going to happen. Exactly. And versus what's happening here, because very early days, right? I mean, it's not like I'm not an anti-crypto person, but I feel that it's still so early that it hasn't come to the point of that, at least that level of structure, because deregulation doesn't mean no structure, doesn't mean anarchy. And I feel at some point you're going to come towards some form, a better structure. I know that governments might not be the best ones to bring structure to things, considering how governments across the world have not been able to bring structure to a lot of sectors. But it's money and it's currency. Governments will get into it. If you thought they wouldn't, then what are you even thinking?
Exactly. I mean, governments run on power and cash. And I think one last thing over here is, there's a big difference in between like regulating something and banning something. And I think especially in cases like this, just simple disclaimers, right? Like just making it mandatory for influencers to, because I get that even they have to earn money, and you get, and I totally understand that advertising is a revenue stream for them, but literally just starting your, pitch saying that, guys, invest at your own risk. We take no liability for what, you know what I mean? Like somewhere just saying
just
that the onus of this decision is on you. I think that's what's needed over here.
Yeah. And to kind of close this one off, David Levinson would agree with you. I want
who
you to
is
think
David
about
Levinson?
Do you not know who David Levinson is?
No, I don't.
This is my favorite toy. He's my favorite character from the movies of all time.
Guys, Varun is back fondling inanimate objects. Lovely, lovely. Middle-age crisis right around the corner.
Yes. Speaking of middle age, since it is the middle of this year, we're doing a throwback to our predictions from early in the year and seeing kiska prediction such hua, kiska abhi tak pani mein pada hua hai. Because it's raining. I'm feeling I'm going to be in pani. But let's look at what you first predicted. You predicted that LinkedIn would be emerging big on content, that they would go deep into content creators, really push the whole creator piece up there. And did it come true?
I think so. So very specifically, I had said that LinkedIn is the next quote unquote social media platform for people to watch out for, because they figured out their audience engagement. It's become a daily use case, and pure bias, but it's become a daily use case for me, where you're just opening up the feed, even if it is to make fun of other, retards on LinkedIn. But you know what I mean? Like that habit creation has happened. People are writing long forms on LinkedIn. I'm seeing all sorts of, that LinkedIn creator program that even you're a part of has become big, where now founders want to be in the know and generally in the thick of things. And obviously, I think the biggest thing that's happened over here is the entrepreneur as the influencer, right? And when this prediction was made was last year, when Shark Tank had, just sort of come out and was ruling the roost, and, you saw everyone sort of sharing their founder stories and this, that, and the other. But long story short, I think I am like 80% right on this one. But
I agree
jury's
with you,
out. What do you think?
So I actually think LinkedIn's done all the right things for the creator space in the the large part of this year, because they've actually done it right. They've so like, let's build a creator team. They have a great creator team, super involved, super helpful. They're also kind of pushing people to do the right kinds of content. I think they're also iterating. I think one of the good parts about, because I was there creator day at LinkedIn, and one of the things which I really thought was good was they were taking feedback on which parts of the product were good and what weren't working for creators. We all had perspectives. They were listening, they were taking notes. Obviously, they didn't promise that all of those changes would happen, but the fact is they're doing that part. But more than anything else, if you are someone who's creating content around business or professionals, they are now your go-to. That used to be Twitter. It's not Twitter anymore. I feel it's LinkedIn. And the more and more, there were a bunch of creators there who've really literally grown careers on LinkedIn now, but become consultants, done all that stuff, who would also come for Creator Day. And I thought that was showing that just going deep into one niche as a platform, and because you already had the credibility, you just build the tools now. I think they're definitely there. I think it's only going to scale more because they've added so many interesting features which they've been testing and putting out there, and they're the only ones who have organic reach till now, at least.
Correct.
That
Absolutely.
really helps. So yeah, I definitely say they're doing this, and I don't think there's anybody even close to them to kind of take over that professional side content piece. Twitter's kind of like, we know what Twitter's doing. So
yeah. But
that's a whole different game.
Suchita won.
Yes.
Varun,
yes,
what about you?
I think one of my predictions was that creator-led brands would rise. So I would say that's a 50-50. There are a lot of creator-led brands now. This year's had a spree of announcements, right? You've had everybody from Bionic on one end to an Ekta Kapoor on the other end. She's a creator as well. So I think in that sense, you've had a lot of that coming out. How many of them have been breakout successes is a question mark. And I feel what's happening also is,
let's be honest,
creator-led brands is also as much celebrity-led brands. So a ton of celebs, and especially from Bollywood and the South, etc., who kind of build their own brands. And you have Rana Daggubati, who launched his personal grooming brand. You have a lot of that happening. But I also feel when you look at D2C brands in general, everybody's kind of going through that phase right now of not really scaling high, right? So I don't think it's the creator-led brands that haven't worked. I just think it's just like a bad time in the market to be a D2C brand starting off, because performance is not working that well. And you kind of have to figure on building the brand and growing it the traditional way a lot more. So did it work, not work? I think it's a 50-50. Pass marks again. I have not got distinction like you on your prediction, but it's also the market, is how I put it. What do you think?
Blame it on the market. How convenient. No, but I think the good thing and the bad thing is, so I think the good thing is there's a lot of intent which you're seeing across the board, right? Like this creator called Devashri Das, I think she's launched some makeup brand. Then there's Anam C, she's launched a makeup brand. So I think there's definitely intent. I think this intent needs to kind of be counterbalanced with folks who understand how business works, right? And you've seen this happen in the US, for example, if you look at something like Skims, or if you look at, Kylie Cosmetics, all of them may have a creator as a face, but they have very robust distribution engines, production engines, and just business engines, back-ending the brand. In fact, Skims, Frame, which is his jeans company, Good American, which is Khloe Kardashian's denim brand, all of them are actually run by the same couple, Jen and Emma Grede. I don't know how to pronounce exotic sounding last names, but there's this very good article that was in the Financial Times about, how they are basically like back-ending these brands. So I think the latter is missing. I think there's a lot of very good, strong intent. So hence agree with your 50-50 assessment, which is intent hai, but I think the actualization of that intent hasn't happened because I'm not seeing enough business muscle being put into this. But I guess that's where the opportunity lies.
I think there's one brand, although we should talk about. It's not traditionally a creator-led brand. I don't think you can call it that, because now we're including, let's say, celebrities and like TV and is that Rene Cosmetics, which is the third brand from the co-founders of Beardo. So guys start Beardo, then Villain, and now Rene has a third co-founder, and I actually think she started it off and they came on later, which is Ashka Garodia, who is the TV actress who's now one of the co-founders of the brand. So while she's not the face, I think initially she was, and they've gotten, let's say, Rashmika Mandana, and I think that's an interesting case saying, okay, she's not only selling it on herself, and obviously she's got great co-founders. They've had like the most amount of repeated success in building brands in this space at scale. I think there's something to learn from that, is to say that don't just make it about yourself being the face and kind of grow it by getting names who would have wider reach. I don't know how Zakir Khan's biryani is doing though, but I think it's early days for that one to figure out if that's working or not.
Yes, Queen. Moving on to my next prediction, which was home and kitchen brands boom. I think in this, I have got the same marks as I got in math in class 6, which is, under 50%. It is still a very promising space. I think the thing that screwed this market up is inflation this year. And in my defense, a couple of interesting things have happened. Nykaa Fashion has launched their own private label called Twig and Twine, which is their home decor brand. I don't know if you guys have opened Urban Company's app recently, but now you can even buy products on the Urban Company app. So you can buy lights and, basic kitchen requirements, this, that, and the other. You can buy it off of their app, which, I found fairly interesting. And obviously, there have been a couple of investments in this space. So I think Westbridge did a couple of investments in home decor marketplaces. Nest Roots raised some amount of money within this space. So not the amount of, breakoutness that I would have anticipated. But that said, I can't disclose too much around this, but there are a couple of companies betting very aggressively and very big on different subcategories within home, which I think we'll see around October, November, December. So watch out
Secret
for
news.
that.
Secret news coming up. I don't know why I made that voice, but anyway. I have actually forgotten some of my predictions. I think I have another prediction which I made was the growth of the health and wellness space, which I think is continuing to grow. You're seeing more and more brands getting into my favorite gummies. I've been using a lot more gummies lately. I might actually start using collagen. Is that how I pronounce it? Collagen.
We've had this discussion 20 times before. Collagen.
I'm starting to use that as well. I'm expanding my thought process towards plant protein and some other things as well. But it's been interesting. There's a lot of brands there. I've been doing a lot of research because I've just been looking at the products in that space, and there seems to be so much more space to grow. I think the big problem there is that while there are a bunch of brands, it's still tricky to differentiate between brand to brand. They all kind of seem to have the same kind of products, while the branding is different. As a consumer, do I really care which one I buy is still a question mark. Although I did find some which I'm also confused by. I recently saw one which is like an effervescent tab you put inside water, and if you drink it, it's also like helps you with your anxiety, which I kind of feels a little more medicinal. I tried it.
Yeah.
I don't know if my anxiety went away, but I tried it. I'm like, let's put it in a glass of water, drink it, let's see if it happens. But I feel there's a lot of space. While I think growth is there, people are looking at healthier options. Still early days, but definitely a lot more brands today than they were in Jan. So I would again give myself close to pass marks. But more importantly, I want to ask a question because something you said a little earlier. You said you got some marks in maths. What is the lowest marks you ever gotten in an exam?
That is a great question. This was in class 6. I think I got 42 out of 100 in math.
That is no, not in maths, in general.
Yeah, dude, math was like the only subject I sucked at.
That is your bad marks?
That's my bad marks. But then I fixed things very quickly. So by like the 9th grade, I was like a topper, alpha student.
In engineering, got 4 out of 100. Or in a subject.
Oh my God.
And that was the 4th time I was giving that paper. By the 4th time I was giving that paper, I got 4 out of 100.
God.
I was like, is baar mein pass honga. Marks came 4 out of 100.
How does one get 4 out of 100? This is an honest question. Did you answer only one question correctly?
So this subject basically was this weird one. I continued to flunk that. That was actually the reason why my engineering went on for 6 years instead of 4. It's a subject called mechanical engineering design, where you are given books of formulae to take in with your exam, and basis whatever data you given in the question, you have to use the right formulae. Now, if you use the wrong formula, the answer is wrong. Like, there's no like grace marks. You either get it right or you get it wrong.
Binary outcomes.
So basically, there is like no, like, I don't even know where that 4 marks came from, because there was no question that was worth 4 marks. Some guys just, okay, let's not give him 0. Bechare ko de do 4 mark. I'm like, uncle, meko chahiye 15 mark to pass. Or whatever, like 35. No, I need 40 marks to pass, correct. But yes, that is why I got 4. But next time I got 40. God. So uncle realized that, okay, not 4, let's add a 0.
Add a 0.
He gave me 40 next time. I also wrote please sir. I actually wrote please, and I can say this on record. I actually wrote at the end of my answer paper, I said please, sir.
Mummy will kill me. Mummy will spank me. For mummy's sake,
written, please, sir,
I had
before.
a 0.
But
oh my god!
But
yes.
Speaking of prediction, you had one more.
Yeah, I had one last one.
M&A.
Yes, Queen. I said 2022 will be a big year for mergers and acquisitions, especially in fintech. And I think I can safely say I am on the right track for this one. And I will make one, addendum to this, which is I think BNPL is going to see a large amount of consolidation towards the end of this year, because especially with the RBI and, banks, this, that and the other, crashing down, same regulation, this, that and the other. I think BNPL is going to be the next sort of subcategory within fintech that will see companies coming together, sucking it up and, moving on. But yeah, I would score myself a good 80 on 100 on this one.
I forgot what my last prediction was. So I think that...
must have been a great prediction.
Let's ask listeners. Listeners, if you have better memory than I do, then please let me know what my third prediction was. And if it was right or not.
Your third prediction is nowhere close to being true, given that you don't even remember what it is.
But I don't remember most things. I don't remember most things which have some form of relevance in life. Okay, guys, before this goes on any further, we will take a break and we'll come back with recommendations for this week. Welcome back to Think Fast. Without me digressing further, so what are your recommendations for this week?
Dude, I will end with the one thing that gave me a lot of joy this weekend, which was watching Koffee with Karan. That episode with Ranveer Singh and Alia Bhatt was so funny. Her laughter is like a little, like it's a bit of a cackle. Like Alia Bhatt, like the way she laughs.
Though. It's a cute laugh.
Sure, that's what some people call it. No, but she's hilarious. Ranveer Singh is a legend. He is so funny. That guy is a riot. In fact, that like segment on like sex playlist, I was all like, this is why you are on an OTT
mimicry.
platform.
I think mimicry was so funny. I was like laughing so much. And because I watch a lot of paparazzi videos, that's my like favorite pastime. I watch like Viral Bani, Woompla, all those channels. And I'm like, exactly how all those guys stand in front, but also the Hrithik Roshan.
Yeah, that was too good, guys.
Yes, that's too good.
That was excellent. But that's my recommendation, guys. Please waste your life and waste your time in great ways by watching Koffee with Karan new season.
My recommendation is actually a movie called Vikram, which I saw. It's Kamal Hassan's movie after a long time. I mean, also like I'm huge like Masi South movie, actually Masi in general movie buff, and this is like great action. Like I was tripping on that movie while watching. I literally rewatched a few of the scenes after I finished watching it on Friday night. So I'd recommend watching Vikram. It's like awesome. And also good to see Kamal Hassan back, and he still kind of got it. The eyes still have it. So think about all South actors.
What's the best? Chachi 420 was the best. That movie was really funny, of course. Chia.
You really have to kind of pick up Kamal Hassan movies, and you're saying Chachi 420. That is your pick. Watch Naikan. Actually, there's a scratching dog somewhere. A dog is scratching somewhere. Naikan.
No, I think Chachi 420 was.
Chachi 420. Before this digresses, I'll know he's smiling, but inside this boy is crying. My smiley face is back.
That's great. And while you bore us with this, listeners, toodles my poodles. See you on the next
bye,
episode.
Guys. Bye.
Bye.